Welcome into another episode of Red Zone Talk. I'm Owen Burke. He's Tim Hunt. Episode 3. We've got playoff predictions. We've got award predictions. We've got a whole bunch of stuff trying to put a bow on the preseason stuff and get into football time. So, you want to just dive straight into some award predictions?
Yeah, I mean, we're recording this on Monday the 9th. We'll have two episodes come out this week. Last week we ran into some technical difficulties, weren't able to get an episode out. So putting one out this week. This should be out, I think, tomorrow. So it'll be out the 10th. And then we'll have another episode kind of talking about week 1. Obviously, we're not going to give you our bets now because most of the games have passed. So we'll go
okay.
over.
I went 1-2 anyway, so we don't have to talk about
Did you?
it. Yeah.
I'm 1-1. Tonight's game will determine how else I do.
Tim's like, depending on how tonight goes, we may count that week 1 stats anyways. We'll see.
Yeah. We'll probably count them either way. I think, even if I go 1-2.
Shit.
But so housekeeping there, and then it'll just be regular 1 week an episode. This one should be a shorter episode as well for the people listening at home. I can't imagine it takes us super long.
Nah.
Instead of running through the playoffs like we normally do, we're just going to give you our Super Bowl picks because it's kind of hard if you can't see what we're talking about. So it's just easier, in my opinion, to just kind of say who we've got ended up in the Super Bowl. So
tell you what, if you're that curious and you want to see the bracket, feel free to message us. I'm sure we could carve out some time. We'll give you the full bracket if you want it. But we're going to save the other people some time here and just get straight to the Super Bowl.
All right. Jumping in, first award here, MVP, who you got?
My MVP prediction for this year looks grim after week 1. I currently have Jordan Love listed as my pick beforehand.
It's a sprained MCL, so I think they said like 4 weeks is what they're anticipating. Oh, no, I'm getting him mixed up with Puka. Puka, they put on the IR for 4 weeks. I think it's 6 for Jordan Love is what I remember.
It could help his case. Like, if they really struggle and then he comes back and, like, goes nuclear, like, he would have to go absolutely insane. It would have to be another kind of weaker year. There's a lot of asterisks there, but it's possible.
Yeah. I mean, last year was a weak year for MVP talk.
It's a very weak year.
Like, Lamar kind of won it because it was like, I guess he's the guy who's going to win it. That's kind of what it felt like to me. Like, no one ran away with it, so it's like, if they had given it to Dak or somebody, like, it wouldn't have bothered me any more or less, honestly.
No. The hole that the corner I've talked myself into there is that it was just the teams that he beat down the stretch. You're like, they looked past the numbers for once for voting and saw, big wins on the road and at home against Miami, San Francisco, Jacksonville, and LA all in 5 weeks. It's a damn good stretch to close out the season, but we all know that's not the case. My quarterback is most popular, so he won last year.
Yeah.
Still a 2-time MVP, 2 more than Joe Burrow. Eat it.
True.
So,
I've got Josh Allen. I think this is the year he has to get over the hump. And I think, honestly, if he has an okay year, it'll reflect really well on him because the talent isn't as much around him, you know?
The story is set there for sure.
Yeah, like, hey, you lose your star wide receiver, and if they go out and win the AFC East, I think it might be enough to kind of push him over the top there. So I do like Josh Allen for that award.
Yeah, as long as there's no breakaway candidate there, I think that's an easy scenario. And he could be the breakaway candidate. I think the one thing we're in agreement on is there's definitely some fatigue setting in with MVP voters over Patty, Aaron Rodgers, Lamar Jackson. So I think it's going to be somebody who hasn't won an MVP award yet.
I agree. I just don't see, like, the NBA is worse, I think, than the NFL.
Way worse.
The NBA, it's like, Joel Embiid's an old story. He got his one, and then we're moving on, and like he'll never get another one again. So it's incredible. Like, the NBA is blows my mind sometimes. Like, Jokic, I think they've done a good job in the last couple of years of, like, he's been the MVP and won the MVP.
I agree.
But outside of that, for the most part, they can be pretty horrendous of just being like, we don't like this guy anymore. Like, Giannis should have won more MVPs than he did because
there was like 3 or 4 years where you're like, We decided this 8 months ago, and the play leading up to this point has not
Well,
shown
LeBron
what you're
only has
thinking.
4, right?
Yeah, which is a joke.
Yeah, like LeBron's been the best player in the league for more than 4 years.
Yeah,
So,
and like Harden has won, but the year that he won really should have been a LeBron year. But Harden still should have won. It's
yeah,
bad. Like you
Harden
have
should
so many
yeah.
asterisks that are riddled amongst. It's very difficult because you have great players and then you have legendary seasons. So
Yeah.
I would love to have some legendary football be played this year. I'd love a. I really want somebody to just go after Peyton Manning's touchdown record or something. Give me something crazy. I
I
want to
just
see
don't
that level of gunslinging, dude.
Here's the thing I'll say about that. I think defenses have gotten better
Yeah,
since that era of football too. Like it is a pass first league, right? And stats are crazy, but I think numbers like that are going to be harder to achieve because the defenses are so good.
true.
Like there is less reliance on, oh, we've got an Ed Reed in our secondary and that's all we need. It feels like there's a lot more secondaries where you're like, man, that third corner in that team is pretty dang good.
Yeah,
Um, so that's the one thing I'll say about that is I think that record will be harder and harder to achieve. Um, and just the like how much talent gets paid now. I mean, you look at those teams like Patriots were paying Randy Moss like nothing. Demarius Thomas, like they had Demarius Thomas, they weren't paying him very much either.
they had Demarius Thomas, Eric Decker, and Wes Welker.
Yeah, like that's a stacked wide receiver core. And then they had a
Emmanuel
was it Julie
Sanders, and
Julius
then
Thomas?
Julius Thomas, the tight end. Yeah,
Yeah, I don't know why that name felt wrong. It feels like a
which created
basketball player name, but
it might be Julian, Julian, one of the two. But yeah, like I mean, and that was how good that offense was. It's like Peyton was like, "All right, well, we're throwing a lot. I guess we'll just throw this guy the ball." And you're like, "Hey, this guy's pretty good."
yeah.
You just found him in the fucking sixth round.
So I think those is I think that's kind of the reason why you're not going to see people chase that as often. Now 5,000 yards I think is still very very doable for
Yeah, I think that's
anybody.
cake.
But
No, yeah,
the
cake.
I don't know if you'll see somebody cuz Peyton's record's 54, 55
55.
touchdowns, 55.
Wait,
So I
what if
know
Brady was 50 flat?
I think it was 52
That's
Brady
what
was.
52 sounded right, but I was like, man, 50 sounds good too.
I and like Randy's 23 touchdowns in a season. That'd be crazy if somebody
No,
came close to that, but
no, I don't think that'll ever be touched. Like, it's gonna take another like Megatron level guy
yeah.
to do that, and I
And
don't know if
we have
that's
a
it.
lot of talent at the top of the wide receiver core, but nobody's like sheer and utter dominance. That's the thing.
Yeah, nobody is prime Julio Jones right now. We don't have that.
Yeah.
We had it, Devontae Adams, before he got out to Vegas, but
Yeah.
Cooper Cup filled a year, and here we are. So
And Cooper Cup wasn't like dominant the way that Julio Jones was. Like
no, no,
that was
yeah,
more
that's a
of
very good point.
a like, hey, look, like I create a lot of separation and I'm in a pass burst offense.
We're gonna throw the ball a lot. It's gonna be a lot of rhythm and timing. You're one of the better route runners that this game has. Pretty
Yeah.
simple stuff.
Yeah, exactly. So you're gonna have he had what 115 catches that year, like
Yeah, he won the Triple Crown that year.
yeah. So I think it's more of the combination of things. Um, all right, offensive player of the year. I've got CeeDee Lamb winning this. I think he is wide receiver one, um, and I think he's going to be in a offense that's going to be forced to throw a lot. Right, Zeke Elliott is RB1 for this team. Uh, Not a lot of other choices either. Brandon Cooks has actually looked pretty good for them one weekend so far, so that might be too soon. But I think it is CeeDee Lamb for offensive player of the year.
It's a pretty solid pick there. It's definitely going to be probably your superstar wide receiver. Anybody whose quarterback doesn't go down, like Justin Jefferson, would have been an easy shoe in here,
Yeah.
depending on what JJ McCarthy looked like. By the way, before I give you my pick, there's only been 4 Triple Crown winners in modern football history, and Cooper Cup is one of them.
There you go.
It's Cooper Cup, Jerry Rice, Sterling Sharp, and Steve Smith Sr. in 2005.
Yeah, and Sterling Sharp did it for the Packers.
Yeah, he did.
Yeah.
And obviously Jerry. I'm honestly kind of surprised Jerry only had 1 Triple Crown. That's
That
kind of
is
the most surprising part of that.
yeah.
My offensive player of the year pick, also another one that's not looking great after week 1. I have Jahmyr Gibbs, who got less carries than Dave Montgomery in week 1. I believe he
Yeah.
had less yards, but he did score a touchdown, so that's good. Um, It really just depends on the play calling. I promise you, this guy is a special, special running back, and I think he is one of the better ones in the league. When I just take him, like, no matter what the system is, I'm just looking at what this guy can do on a football field. He is one of the most elusive and hard to bring down players I've seen in a while. Also, I'm very excited to watch Saquon Barkley play for the Eagles this year. He looked really good in week one.
He did.
That'd be a really good pick right here. That might be like my backup pick. But yeah, Jameer Gibbs, if he gets the carries, I think can have one of those real dynamite workhorse years. I just don't know if it's going to happen next to Montgomery. But Saquon, behind one of the best offensive lines in football, boy, y'all are about to learn something. That motherfucker is dangerous.
It's going to be a pretty crazy. He's going to be pretty crazy. I mean, I talked about it a lot in the offseason when they signed him. I was like, this is exactly what this team needed. Um, and it looked true. It looked to be very, very, very true.
Yeah, I think somehow I've undervalued this to a certain degree, which is weird because I will be the first guy to tell you that, like, rookie year Saquon Barkley is one of my favorite highlight tapes I've ever seen in my life. Like, his rookie year was so insane before he started getting hurt. So praying for health, praying that Eagles O line stays healthy. I think that honestly that might be your offensive player of the year right there if injuries stay out of their way.
Well, and the thing that I think is craziest for Saquon is for the first time in his career, they won't be able to stack a box on him,
Yeah.
right? Like against the Giants, he had to play against stack boxes the whole time. And now you can't because if you do that, I mean, you got AJ Brown, Devontae Smith, like you've got real, real talent. Dallas Goddard, you've got weapons in Philadelphia. Jahan Dotson, I'm just kidding. Um, but he's going to catch like 3 touchdowns this year, and everyone on Reddit's going to lose their mind for feeling like
Told you.
they're like, we're going to trade AJ Brown. This is the answer. Um,
Here's the answer to our money problems.
yeah, I hate that, but the point being is, yeah, I think he's a prime candidate for this. Christian McCaffrey obviously is always a prime candidate for this. Even if he misses 4 games out of the year, I still think he has a really good chance of winning this.
No doubt about it, my friend. There are some chances for some big offensive seasons. I'm
All right,
super
defensive
excited.
player of the year. Who you got?
DPOY, Max Crosby, the Las Vegas Raiders. Um, boy, Max Crosby and Christian Wilkins put some work in on the Chargers. Almost had him for the first half. Almost played well enough to keep Gardner Minshew in the game. Just fell short in week one. Crosby, I've been a fan of Crosby's for a good year and a half, 2 years now. I think the thing that sticks out with Crosby is his ability as a run stuffer as well. Because we always talk about the elite edge rushers. That's what the conversation's about, getting after the quarterback. TJ Watt, Miles Garrett, Max Crosby. Well, when you can have a guy in that conversation that can also be a top 10 run defender in the game, that to me is a guy that should be in award conversations year in, year out. And Max Crosby was the best run defender of the classified edge rushers last year. So to me, I think he's primed for a big year. Now you have Christian Wilkinson on the inside. You can't sit there and double team Max and pass and run sets all day now. You're going to have to divert some attention. I think it's going to let him to cause some more havoc. Now, the other thing is his offense is going to be going 3 and out so much that he's probably going to be on the field quite a bit to run some numbers up. So Crosby for DPOY is my official pick this year.
Yeah, I like Crosby. Crosby was definitely on my short list. Um, I like Aiden Hutchinson. Honestly, I think this is the year of the Lions. And they're going to be in a situation where the teams that they're playing against are going to have to pass the ball quite a bit. So I think you're going to see his sack numbers be pretty high. Um, Micah Parsons is the favorite by far and away. He hasn't won one yet, has he?
I don't think so.
No, because Miles Garrett won last year. Um, so he's probably those would probably be my top three. Um, I just think Max Crosby is going to struggle for recognition. I think if that
It's
team
very
wins
possible.
four games this year, I think they're going to have a hard time giving it to somebody like that. And you never know what TJ Watt's capable of, right? TJ Watt could just be that guy that comes out and sweeps everybody away. But I think,
Break sack record again.
yeah, uh, the defense that Dan Campbell's got going in Detroit, I think Aiden Hutchinson is truly the best player from his draft. He's come out and kind of proved that he probably should have been the first overall pick by the Jaguars. They're definitely regretting that at this point. So um, his odds are crazy. When I put on a preseason bet for it, $5 won you like 75. So that's always a good feeling. Uh,
Hell yeah.
all right, coach of the year. Who do you have here?
I've got Sean McVay as my coach of the year this year, which obviously is a name that's usually in talks. But for a lot of different reasons this year, I've talked to some buddies at work about the Rams because I know both you and I are high on them, right? We both
Mm-hmm.
had them either finishing second or winning. You had them winning that division, correct?
I do, yes.
Yeah. So we're both very high on this team. We like what they've drafted. We like what they've done. I talked to a couple buddies at work, and they're like, "I don't know, man. I don't think you get better after losing Aaron Donald." And I was like, "Oh, that's a decent point." Like, all
Yeah,
right. And I'm looking into it, and I'm like, a lot of people aren't really super high on the Rams. So I mean, if your thought process is, as most of America is down on the Rams around the 7 win mark, and they go do what we think they're going to do, which is win 11 to 12 games, possibly win their division, to me, that speaks coach of the year candidate, especially for a guy we know is just that good of a coach. It's
yeah,
not just a good year. So when I was sitting there thinking, I was like, I mean, this makes a ton of sense. I know it doesn't make sense for our picks because you're like, oh, we have him doing really well. Of course, he's going to win or
yeah.
be up there. But
Here's the thing. I think first off, Rams lost last night to Detroit. I think it's Ford Field. I think it's Ford. Like
it's
Matthew
cursed.
Matthew Stafford walks in that stadium is just like, I'm gonna lose. Like I just think that's what it is.
Yeah.
Something about that building in particular that he's like, I just can't win. I'm just unlucky. We go into overtime and David Montgomery looks like a bulldozer running through our defense. So I'm not surprised that they lost last night. I think that's a tough home opener for sure. But
Mhm.
I don't hate McVay. I think they're going to be really successful. I think we've seen the 49ers be really fortunate with injuries these last couple of years, and I think we're going to kind of see that regress this year. And I don't think they can be that lucky again. So yeah, I've got the Rams winning that division. I think it's a good pick. I like the pick. I've got Mike McDonald winning it out in Seattle.
I
Uh,
love that pick.
I think this is like a really sneaky good team. And I think if they win 9 games, I think people are going to kind of be like, oh, watch out for them. Like this team, if this team makes the playoffs, I think it's a hard not to pick him. Um, you're going to see that resurgence in Geno Smith, and that defense is going to be pretty impressive.
I agree. And I think, again, another team that people are kind of counting out, not thinking about, that are going to be that good. And when you look at their defense, like, I could sit here and tell you that they cut definitely probably the biggest name on their defense in the offseason in
Yeah.
Jamal Adams. They also cut Quandre Diggs. This team cut a starting outside linebacker and both their starting safeties. And if this team were to win 9 to 10 games, it's probably going to be on the back of some really good defense.
Yeah.
Obviously, Geno's going to have to play well. The offense will produce, but to me, it'll be a defense-driven thing. And if I can say, hey, this is a new coach. He's a defensive guy. He cut 3 of their starters from last year and still put up a top 5 defense, got this team just to the playoffs or just outside of it. That's a coach of the year candidate. That's a pretty strong case.
Yeah. I would
So
say so.
I like that pick a lot. And I'll tell you, for Seattle fans, don't get too itchy. It may not look great right out the gate. What this man is going to do with your defense is going to be revolutionary. Like, I know you're kind of sick of the defensive archetypes after Pete Carroll, but I promise Mike McDonald is that special of a defensive coordinator. Just question, is he going to line up with the franchise quarterback while he's there? That's the main question.
I'm really curious of what they're going to do at quarterback. Like, can you keep Geno? Do you run it back for one more year, or is this year you kind of have to bite the bullet and draft a guy like later in the first? But no, I agree with you. I think this team is special, and I really like him as a coach. So
Yeah, I think they were using Gino as a transition QB, and the timeline got extended because Gino decided to play really well for no reason.
yeah,
And now that's fine. Let Gino walk. Let Sam Howell be your transition guy into whoever you draft this year.
yeah.
So
I think overreaction. We should have both been like Gerard Mayo. He beat Cincinnati, goes 1-0. This team is coming back.
this team is coming back. I'm
Could
going
you imagine?
Brian Callahan because they looked really good until the
They
fourth quarter
they
against the
looked
Bears.
they looked great. Yeah. Oh God. Will Levis, man. Whew.
Dennis Allen, what a blowout. What a great win for the Saints.
Yeah,
Gotta be
Dennis
coach of
Allen.
the year.
That's an overreaction. That's what the people are after. Dennis Allen, watch out for him.
Title the episode that, please. Dennis Allen, coach of the year.
Dennis Allen, coach of the year? Question mark. That guy's
That's
gonna get. That guy
uh,
won. Everyone. Yeah, I mean, we could talk about people overreacting on Mondays. I we'll talk about it in the other episode that'll come out this week. But people that are like Saints, pretty good, huh?
dude, it kills me. It's
Like
so
no,
funny.
they beat Bryce Young, man. That guy has never played a good game in the NFL. Like, calm down.
You're like, this defense and this team, which has been mostly Dennis Allen, was 1-5 against Tom Brady in his Tampa Bay Buccaneers career.
Yeah,
Like, this defense just plays really well. If they're 1-5 against Tom Brady, what do you fuck do you think they're gonna do against Bryce Young? Like,
Bryce Young. Yeah,
let's not freak out here, all right?
let's not panic. It feels like a
Saints
little bit of a over Saints question mark. Nope.
division winners.
Everyone who drafted Alvin Kamara is like, "See, I told you." That's like, let's
I'm a
calm down.
genius.
Yeah, like simmer down. It's 1 week of it. It's
I told you Rashid Shaheed was a league winner.
oh
What do you
god.
mean?
I'll never forget the preseason where Jameis like threw that bomb to Rashid, and like every league I just saw a notification. Every dynasty league, like
Waiver
Rashid was
claim.
yeah, waiver claim, waiver claim, waiver
Waiver
claim.
claim.
It was like it just like everyone was like, oh, you see, if Jameis likes him, who knows? It's like no, that's not going to be the answer.
That's
But
so funny, dude.
I hate Dennis Allen. All
I
right,
love our sport.
offensive rookie of the year. I've got Caleb Williams winning it all. Felt like the safe choice. It felt like the right choice. After week one, every rookie QB that played struggled.
Yeah. Yep.
Really, really struggled. So I'm not fearful of this pick at this point, to be honest with you. I think he's the one that's going to develop the fastest because he's going to have the most opportunity. He's going to have weapons that are going to allow him to get the ball out quick and not have to, hold on to the ball and play hero ball. Bo Nix probably would have been my second pick for this. I still really like Bo Nix. I think the more time he spends with Sean Payton against live defenses, I think the better he'll get. But Caleb Williams is I think the 101 here.
Yeah, I don't know if any rookie had a good week one. It might be like Joe Alt, might be the best week one we got. I don't know. I haven't looked at PFF yet.
Yeah.
But none
Malik
of the
Neighbors
rookies.
got a couple.
I didn't see any big things from him, so I didn't know.
No, he didn't have a great. I think he caught like 3 balls for like 50 yards or something. So
Well, if there has ever been picks that look worse after week one, I haven't seen it unless they're mine. My offensive rookie of the year pick is Marvin Harrison Jr., who had a stark 3 targets, I believe.
yeah, one
I want to
catch.
say 1 catch for like 9 yards. Not a great week one, but it is what it is. It did worry me a little bit because the offense is kind of humming in the first half, and he was nowhere to be seen. So we'll see if they can get him into rhythm and kind of ride it. If he becomes the number one receiver on this offense and none of the quarterbacks run away, to me, this screams it. Because Kyler Murray looked really good. I know they didn't get the win over Buffalo down the stretch, but they looked really. I saw some flashes from Arizona, who we thought was going to be one of the worst teams in the league this year. So,
Yeah.
I mean, if they could put up some numbers on the offensive side of the ball, I could see Marvin winning this. Honestly, I know we're not big Jaden Daniels guys, but until the league kind of figures him out, plus him having Cliff Kingsbury, like maybe they can do something. Like
Here's what I'll say about Jane Daniels. I think he's going to have a really electric rookie season. I know I didn't mention him. Here's the problem with Jane Daniels. I could see Jaden Daniels ending this season with 2,800 passing yards and 900 rushing yards or something. You know what I mean?
yeah,
I think he's going to look dynamic and look electric at times because of his legs. He, to me, is more on that RG3 path where the first year you're like, wow, he looks really good. And then as they force him to throw more and more, well, that'll be the true sign, right? If he makes it or breaks it.
yeah.
I'm not saying he won't be able to pass from the pocket, but I think this year he is maybe the second least prepared. Probably Drake May is probably out of the first round QBs, right? No, I mean JJ McCarthy we're not counting because he's out all year, but Yeah, if we're not counting JJ McCarthy, he's probably the second least prepared to be a pocket passer, right?
Yeah.
Um, Caleb Williams is a dynamic athlete, but uses his legs to create more time on a play, where Jaden Daniels uses his legs to escape. So um, I wouldn't be shocked if he had a great rookie year. I just don't know if I'm going to call it sustained success.
Yeah, it takes a dangerous type of guy with a dangerous set of legs to do that at a dangerous level to get away with not being a great passer. And
Yeah.
we've only seen one guy do it, and he's doing it right now. So, and it's not always the most fruitful method. Watching those three sailed throws on Thursday Night Football killed me. Trust me.
Mhm.
Or the one sailed and then the Zay Flowers miscommunication in the end zone. Like, it kills me.
Okay, let's.
But,
I don't want to talk. We could talk about it now,
I mean,
briefly.
I'm sure there might be
That
in some picks that we're
yeah,
about to do.
that that throw. People are overreacting to that throw.
I
You,
agree.
that throw is so hard. He is rolling to the left. Zay Flowers is coming back across the field the other direction, and he is trying to like that is such a hard throw. Zay Flowers was open, but that is an incredibly hard pass to try to lead Zay Flowers in. I I mean, to sit here and if I told you, hey, if Isaiah Likely wore a size 12 instead of a size 13, you guys would have a chance to win the game, you'd be like, oh, that's pretty good outcome, right?
Yeah.
Like
I'd be perfectly okay with that. And
that game was so much more competitive than it was last year in the playoffs.
yeah, it was way more exciting. And I will
Yeah.
tell you, like, I wasn't super thrilled with a ton of the stuff I saw from us. I like watching Lamar Jackson play football on Thursday night. We are so fucking back. Like, that's my quarterback. The guy I've seen for the last 2 years is damn good. He won an MVP too. This is like 2019 types of the aggression, how quick he is, and he's knowing where to take his shots and where not to. Like,
Yeah.
there's a 3rd and 6 on the goal line. He's running right behind his guard, dives forward for the extra yards. He gets past the first down marker out of bounds. He takes a step out. Like, he's being smart with it, and he looks quick again, man. He looks
Yeah.
fast.
I think Todd Monken didn't utilize the RPO fully. I don't know why. Like Derrick Henry felt underutilized in this
He
game.
definitely was. He
He
definitely was.
It felt forced early on. It felt like, hey, we're just trying to give Derrick Henry some carries here. And I didn't love that feeling. And then at the end, it felt like, okay, what happened to Derrick Henry? Like, why aren't you utilizing him at all? Um, so I think as the year goes on and that balance becomes better and they find out the spots where to use Derrick and when to bring in, oh man, what's the speedy guy? I'm blanking on his name. Uh,
Last week it was Justice Hill. It will be Keaton Mitchell most likely.
yeah, Justice Hill. Like when to transition those out, you know what I mean? That's the only thing that does scare me a little bit is it'll be very obvious like, hey, we're passing here because Derek's not in the game.
Yeah, our offensive line was shaky. Watching
Yes.
Chris Jones just walk up and down the defensive line and pick his matchup for every snap was some of the most demoralizing stuff I've ever had to watch as a fan. Like, he's just picking any lineman he wants to and just barbecue chicken back to my fucking quarterback. I had to
Yeah.
watch Justice Hill play right tackle against Chris Jones with the game on the line, 5 seconds left.
Yeah, it was
Chris
pretty
Jones
wild.
goes unblocked in the backfield, and I'm watching Justice Hill fight for his life.
Yeah.
Yeah, we weren't super prepared in some spots. I am somewhat worried about us getting predictable because it was like you're like Derek's in the game, probably seeing a carry here. Like,
Yeah.
and that's what Greg Roman was the fucking worst about was you could just see it from a mile away. You watch 2 games of tape and you sat in the third, like, in the third row and watch the offense come out by formation in what motion. You're like, I know exactly what the fuck's about to happen right now. And if I could figure it out, the guys that get paid to do it are going to sniff it out and tackle you for a loss every fucking time.
Yeah.
So, need to work on the deception a bit. I need Derek to become a little bit of a pass blocker, so at least that part's in the game for when we go to pass the ball. But yeah, all in all, the threat of Lamar Jackson and Derrick Henry is still there. Because
It
I
is.
saw that today. People were talking about it, and they're like, anybody who thought we were going to bring Derrick Henry to Baltimore and give him 30 carries like he was in Tennessee, that's not how this is going to work. Like, we don't need our offense to be live or die by Derrick Henry. Our offense is most dangerous when both of those guys are on the field. And if Derrick Henry's getting 30 carries or Lamar Jackson's getting 30 carries, there's a chance one of those guys isn't healthy. So
Yeah.
We're going to attack at it with the threat of those two guys out there together, not
Well, and you
always going to that every fucking play.
and you want value out of it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
There's going to be times where Derek's probably going to get 30 carries, but it's not going to be an every week situation, you
Yeah.
know?
Not going to be
And
when Chris Jones is teeing off on my offensive line.
yeah, there's going to be times though where he has 15 carries. I think it's going to be about finding the spots for both of those guys for sure. All right, let's jump into our Super Bowl picks here. Why don't you? Do you want to go first? You want me to go first?
I would like you to go first, my friend.
All right. In the Super Bowl this year, I have the Eagles versus Baltimore, um, and I'm gonna have Philly winning it. I'm that confident in Philadelphia. I'm doing a little bit of a 180 on it, but I like Philly. I've always loved Philly. I think this is the year. I think Saquon is that piece, takes him over the top. You fix both your coordinators, right? There's a lot of hate for Vic Fangio. I know he wasn't necessarily loved in Miami, I guess, is kind of what people are saying. Um, Sometimes just a change of scenery can fix that. I think this defense has a good chance to be dominant. Um, and I like Kellen Moore. Justin Herbert was not healthy for most of last year, so to sit there and blame him for that season out of Justin
Yeah.
Herbert is just completely unfair on so many levels. Um, so I think Kellen Moore is going to be dynamic. I think Saquon's going to be dynamic. You have a top two wide receiver duo in the NFL probably. Um, with AJ Brown, Devontae Smith, Dallas Goddard's still a pretty good option himself. I think this is the year they kind of get over that hump and they play Baltimore. I think Kansas City's going to be tough, right? It's going to be tough to get out of the AFC. I'm not saying they're going to have a free pass in the AFC. Um, but I think Baltimore's got a good shot at it this year. I think that game was close. It was competitive in a way that I like to see. So I like Baltimore to go.
It's definitely two solid picks. I can't be mad about you picking my own team to get there. My picks are somewhat similar. I do have one team that I share with you. Um, I also have Philadelphia going to the Super Bowl on the NFC side. I have Kansas City returning on the AFC side.
Yeah.
I thought about it. Obviously, on the AFC side, I know it's a boring thing to pick Kansas City, but when I look at the rest of this, like nobody sticks out, and it's the same thing for Philly on the NFC side. Like when I look at the AFC, when I watch Baltimore, and yes, I'm letting Week One influence my pick currently a little bit in where I stand with my own team. Like the offensive line I saw on Thursday night, and hopefully it'll be better, but there's a chance it's more banged up come the playoff times. Like that offensive line on Thursday Night Football is not going to get Lamar Jackson in the Super Bowl, most likely. Now, when it comes down to it in the stretch, who knows? He does have a way to do the impossible. But Houston, I don't think the step is there. I don't see them getting all the way. Buffalo again got worse. Josh Allen may have an MVP year. I don't think they can go deep. I had Indy pretty high. I don't think they can make a deep run. Miami without having home field advantage then is a safe bet. And after that, then you dip into the Jets and the Bengals and the Chargers, and it's like, are we sitting here saying that any of these teams can try to beat Kansas City? I don't feel confident. On the other side, a lot of what you said about Philly is on the money. Like they
Hmm.
have just separated themselves. Saquon Barkley is the add to that team because we saw a career year from Miles Sanders, a career year from DeAndre Swift, and you upgraded each year, right? Miles Sanders is good, and you're like, oh, this
Yeah.
Swift is better, and
Better.
he produced. But now you're like, this guy was a top five running back in the game at one point. Is he there anymore? No, but he's been hurt playing next to Daniel Jones behind a bad offensive line. Put him here. He is going to do numbers. And I agree. Kellen Moore's a good play caller. Everything's lining up there. The only way that team doesn't go deep this year is an absolute dissolvement of their cornerback room, like what happened around week 11, week 12 last year, or Nick Sirianni and Jalen Hurts getting a fist fight in the middle of the season,
Yeah.
and something ridiculous like that. That obviously you can't try to sit here and predict at all.
They're not the most stable team. Like I'll give you that. They're also
Yeah,
a couple injuries away. But here's what this reminds me of a lot of is when the 49ers added Christian McCaffrey, we were kind of like, really, that doesn't make a ton of sense to me.
Yeah,
Like I didn't click. I was like, why would you do that? And now seeing what San Francisco was able to do with it, I'm not going to make the same mistake with Philly and
yeah,
understand like it is going to elevate this team to another level, especially with Jalen Hurts' ability to run the football as well. It is just a absolute four-headed monster of an offense. So
yeah. Yeah, and you're like, oh well, why would you pay 12 million for that when you could pay 6 million and get 3/4? And I'm like, because that 3/4 of that is probably like a top 15, top 10 guy. I spend the extra 6 million and I have the guy. I have the number one guy.
yeah,
Like that is worth the extra money at that point to me. So I have Philly and Kansas City, Philly and Baltimore. It's gonna be interesting to see what happens. I would love to see my team up there. I don't know if I want Philly to be the team waiting if Lamar Jackson ever gets over the hump of Patrick Mahomes, but
who do you have winning?
oh God. I think Philly gets it done. Like I think they should be able to just take the air out of the ball down the stretch. Like as long as they play a clean first half and they could just take the air out of the ball in the second.
Yeah,
And they
I
have plenty of backs to do it.
I would love to see Lamar and Jalen Hurts play in a Super Bowl because it would just be
That
electric. I think two great defenses, two teams with rushing quarterbacks, like it would be that game would be dynamic on so many levels. It truly
I
would.
would love that. I'd love to see it.
But all right, I think that's going to wrap up the Super Bowl predictions episode, aka Dennis Allen for Coach of the Year episode. Um,
Yeah.
we'll see you people later this week. Make sure you follow us on Instagram, YouTube. Let us know in the comments. Hey, we want shorter episodes, longer episodes. Let us know what's working for you guys. We'll try to fit it in. So
110%.
all right, you got anything else for these people?
That's all I got, folks. So, with that, we will bid you adieu. Until then, we'll see you later on this week. But until then, stay safe, stay healthy. We'll see you then.